Welcome to the Bet Mobile Edition. I'm commuting, so I'm just kind of talking into my microphone as I drive in today to the university. And it's going to free flow. Is that a word? I'm in a really, really good space lately. This is week 51, which is like, what? How are we here? I knew this day was coming. I've actually been feeling it for several months now. The difference is several months ago, I'm sure I made an episode about this. I was feeling a lot of pressure about what are my results going to be by the end of the year? What am I going to talk about? Is this going to even be worth it? And today, 1 week out from wrapping this whole experiment up, I'm feeling so free. I literally feel free from any expectation. I've been thinking about how do I explain this or how do I classify this? And something, you know, how you can hear something 85 times and then when your consciousness is actually ready to hear it at a new level, you will hear it in a new way. I was recording an episode of Useful Thinking, I don't know, a week or two ago, going through the shadow side and the signature side of each of the 5 energetic types. And as I was talking about manifesting generators, which I am one of, I heard myself say, as if I didn't know this already, that because this particular type is energetically designed just to be a busy kind of creature. Many gens are very, very busy, and they're designed to be using that energy on things that light them up. And then I said something I've always known as well, which is that not every project that you start needs to be finished, and not everything needs to even amount to something. Because we are so multi-passionate, I call it like pinball energy. If you've ever played old school pinball, when you have all this energy and you just release the ball and you let it go all over the board and keep it in play until it runs out of its steam and goes back and resets. But it's not like generators, which are bowling alley energy, right? You have all this power and you roll the ball down the lane and you're aiming it at 10 specific pins and you're trying to get these pins marked down. That's your objective, right? It's more pinball. Like, let's see where the ball's going to go. And yeah, you can push the flippers and do some of the cool things, but you can't really control where that ball is going to go. It's going to go where it wants to go, which can make you feel, if you don't understand that about your energy, that you can't stick with anything or that you can't take something across the finish line. And the truth is, like, there are so many things I've done in my life that have ended up amounting to probably nothing, just little curious paths I've followed. And so it's not uncommon for a manifesting generator to have a bunch of different jobs, a bunch of different careers, a bunch of different pivots. And that has been very, very true in my life. Even within my field, I have pivoted multiple times. I've worked in different arenas of that field to where now I'm actually a professor teaching it. But it is interesting for me to see that I've always kind of gotten a little bit stale in different settings after a few years, typically speaking. I had this illumination, I guess if you want to call it that, about what if that's how my business is meant to be? What if my business is not meant to be some project that I have the rest of my life? At first I got a little pissed and I got a little like, why can't I be like everyone else and just stick with something for the whole like shebang of it? And then I realized how every single time I have pivoted, it's expanded me in ways that I wouldn't have imagined. And it's created more joy in my life. It's always led me to something better, especially when I look at my career. I don't know that I could analyze it in that way in terms of my relationships. That would be a really interesting little area for me to look at. But definitely in terms of my career. Every time I pivoted, it has expanded me into new ways. So I was like, why am I trying to make this business be the be all end all of everything for the rest of my life. How much pressure is that? I'm putting so much pressure on the universe to deliver everything I want to me through this one doorway of my business, which is making it harder ultimately. I look at this last year from where I started, which is where I thought I was going to be pushing Memo as my main product and then running a bunch of groups. I have really pivoted to just letting Memo be a standalone evergreen product that I rarely promote. I talk about it in my articles, but it's not like I have these launches of it. And aside from my one human design deep dive, which I did at the end of last year, I think it was in November, I've run 0 groups this year. And I've made more money than I did the year before doing my groups. It has opened up a whole world of speaking opportunities for me. It's interesting. What if I released even having to do anything? I was also listening to a podcast from someone who was talking about how he was frustrated with getting his podcast initially just over the hurdle of getting a bunch of listeners or subscribers, and how when his son was born, he just completely quit focusing on that. Obviously, you got a new baby, right? It was very easy for him to just stop caring about that altogether. And that's when his podcast expanded and sprouted and popped off. And now he's got, of course, millions and millions of downloads. I think there's a lot to be said about that kind of energy. I was approaching this whole thing of, if I hold the energy firm enough to this business, then it will have to come to me through this. And maybe it would. Maybe I certainly had a ton of growth this year, but am I really designed to lock myself into something like that? I don't know. Maybe that's also part of my personal karma to overcome. That's what I've been thinking about lately. So to be honest, as I'm sitting here saying all this, there's a part of me that thinks people are going to judge me. People are going to say, well, she's just saying that now because she didn't get the results she wanted, which is true. Financially, I set a huge goal for myself this year, and I'm going to be a little shy of that. If you include, I'll break it down next week, but I didn't hit that mark, and I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. I've never actually loved what I do on a daily basis more than I have this last year. And I will trade that for anything. That's the feeling I'm going for. That to me is worth more than a few extra tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, there's a part of me that thinks technically this is not working out like my little heart hoped it would when I set out for this a year ago. I thought the universe is going to step in because I'm showing up 100%, full faith, doing my thing every damn week. There's no way that the universe isn't going to step in and make this thing explode. And that has not been the case. That's not how it works. I know it works like that for other people. Who knows why it hasn't been that way for me? I just know that I've never been happier, nor have I felt wealthier, if that makes sense. I do think there's still some work to do in terms of deprogramming my brain that everything is always hard work. I don't know that it has to be. I think there's a difference between, I have been equating showing up 100% as meaning I have to give my full effort, and my full effort means I have to be exhausted and wiped out and used everything up. And that's pretty much how my year played out. I didn't give myself a lot of time. I don't even think I went on maybe a couple trips, little trips, very small trips. Mike and I didn't even do a vacation this year. There was just no time where I could really block out uninterrupted space. I've made my life so damn busy that there's no time to relax and just create space for new things to arrive. So that's something for me to consider as well. I programmed myself to be so busy and have things feel difficult in the process. Now, it's not like suffering difficult. It's just difficult. I'm doing work that I find so genuinely rewarding and fulfilling. So it's not awful, but it is consuming a lot of my energy. That's where I'm sitting with. To be honest, I wanted to get my recording in. It's Monday morning. This has to go out tomorrow morning. So my thoughts are not as organized as I want them to be, but I did want to capture this. Even things like recording this podcast. My life has been so busy that I didn't have time to do it over the weekend. I used to do it every Sunday evening. And last night I was recording my other podcast and having to edit that thing. And again, really rewarding work, but this has left me in the position of having to punt this little project to recording it in my car or sitting in the garage recording it, squeezing it in versus giving it my full attention. When I started this project a year ago, doing this every week was a whole ordeal. So there's good and bad with that, right? How much value am I really giving myself just by doing it every week? I don't know. But the good news is I've stuck with it. I've been consistent. There hasn't even been one week that I've missed, even when I've been really sick. So I'm very proud of myself for that. I'm very, very proud of myself for that. And at the same time, it's probably part of the recipe of why my life feels so busy. So I'm actually looking forward to completing this project, committing to something for a year. I love doing that. I do it every single year. I haven't decided what my next 1 year bet is going to be. When you lose the fire for doing the actual mechanics of it and you still show up and do it, like that's where the juice is that you get out of this. Okay, that's all I got for this week. There may be more than I need to add in here. I'll think about it. If I do, I'll come back on and add a little extra onto the end of this. Otherwise, have a fabulous week. And as always, go bet on yourself.